Yeah, people.
Now that's about being okay. So. Is there any problem parking in those tops?
I started.
I had to park up there.
Yeah, wait up. Yeah, wait. Thank you. Rain and
Oh.
I got it. Election Special Called Meeting. The date is July 15, the time is 12:45. We're at 25555 Lexington Road, Athens, Georgia. First item on the agenda is to adopt. Chair entertains a motion.
I so moved.
Okay. Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor of adopting the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Agenda is adopted. Next item on the agenda is public comment. You have 3 minutes to speak, and I'll call your names in order. So the first person is Miss Joan Roden. Did she step up? You want to go? Okay. Go ahead.
Gordon Roden, 340 Heather Cove. I come before you today addressing a real concern, and that's transparency. You know, we talk about it at the mayor commission meeting, we talk about the school board meeting, and you have a meeting at 12:30 on Monday afternoon when the majority of the people in this town are working. How can you expect to get public input on important matters and subjects that are here? And then we're 15 minutes late start. I had to leave to come. And so I just feel that, please don't mention transparency with this group. The other thing I'm concerned about is, what I saw on the potential new business about changing things in the middle of an election cycle when the workload is as heavy as it can be. And now we're going to start making all these changes, you know, right here in the middle of this. I ask for you people to consider Charlotte and her people who worked with her and the workload that's about to ensue on the Board of Elections. So that's, thank you for letting me come and speak.
Great, thank you. All right, Miss Roden, do you want to go?
Yes, I'm sorry,
Yeah, no, you're fine. Ready when you are.
I'm speaking to the possible changes to voter challenge procedure. I would like to know who it was on this board who thought it was a good idea to bring this discussion to the floor in the midst of an upcoming audit by the Secretary of State in regard to non-citizen voting. The optics of this are incredibly glaring, and I am concerned that this board did not think this agenda item through in advance. It is already out there that you are anticipating challenges. Do you think there are non-citizens poised to vote? That's the optic. Am I to understand that you are attempting to use your authority to suppress challenges to free and fair elections? When citizens are forced to request open records through the Freedom of Information Act in order to get information that should be readily available and have to pay for it, there's something lurking in the shadows. We are told, see something, say something. I'm saying something. Just what is the overwhelming amount of people who have challenged votes in the Clarke County elections post-2020? 100, 75, 30? What's the data on the concerning amount of people that this discussion appears to address? The citizens of Clarke County deserve better than this. I would have thought that you were above bringing this to the agenda, especially at the 11th hour. I would think you would have much more important things to do than to play soothsayer. With transparency in mind, the mayor attempted to throw this board under the bus in his effort to dismiss his recall. The recall petition was a last-ditch effort to try to suppress the will of the people of Athens. Athens is not a stranger to suppression of information tactics. I suggest that you take a vote to remove this agenda item to discuss before it sees the light of day. People just like myself know what this means. We are not blind. We are not stupid. Remove this from the agenda and save yourself some really tacky optics. Are you supporting voter fraud?
Thank you. Okay. Miss Linda?
I'm Linda Kosky, I'm 119 Knapsack Drive. And I'm speaking on behalf of Michael McClendon, and I think he sent you an email. He was worried perhaps that you might not take the time to read it, so I'm going to read it out loud and other people can hear it. I want to bring your attention to what I consider to be a sleight of hand by the Board of Elections and encourage you to just stop this in its tracks. In the middle of the summer, you scheduled a meeting at noon today, July 15th. On the agenda, you have included an item of new business that at first glance appears to be innocuous, but it is about eroding the checks and balances in our election process. The title of the new business item reads discussion about possible changes to voter challenge procedures. There has been no public discussion about this topic, and there is certainly not sufficient information here for there to be transparency so citizens can be informed about what you really intend, so they could have already been asking questions. I have to agree with them on that one for sure. I am going to do some speculating here. My sense is that what this is about is a quiet effort, limited discussion followed by a vote at the next meeting by the Board of Elections to try and slip through a policy to financially penalize citizens who file voter challenges to disenfranchise them from holding you in the elections office accountable. Under your scheme, citizens would likely be charged a fee, which could be substantial, just to exercise their right to make a challenge. You just need to cease and desist. And I second everything you said.
Thank you. Ms. Pam?
Hi, I'm Pam Shropshire. I live at 905 Riverbend Parkway. I concur with the other individuals that have spoken. I just question having a meeting of this importance at this time of day. If you really want to have citizens, I'm retired. Most of these other people behind me are retired. But I really question, I've been on boards before, I really question not having a meeting of this importance at this time of day. If you really want to have citizen involvement, I think the time is inappropriate for that. And that's all I have to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next person is Ms. Jacqueline.
Jacqueline Elsner, 315 Caldwell Circle. I've been in all your meetings. Last Tuesday was your regular meeting. You had a situation with changing, a voting precinct election day said y'all you cannot use that facility anymore. You had to keep discussing it. The attorneys had a lot of obligations. This was the first day that all parties could be physically present to handle this. And that's fine. And I know this board used to meet at 2:30 in the afternoon and y'all kept moving it back to be 4:30. It's a not a usual time, but it was based on little windows of availability of people who had to be here. And I know for myself, I keep up with the state election board, that they're dealing with voter challenges, changing rules. These are important things to be discussed this year. This morning, the Oconee Observations reported that last week's Oconee Board of Elections, they had a citizen was challenging voter thing, and their attorney said, just go through the regular procedures you've already established, which has been described here. Y'all go through death notices and felony and who's moved out of town, moved us out. Y'all have a procedure to clean up the voter on a monthly basis, and you follow impeccable. And Georgia does not have non-citizens voting. It just doesn't. The statistics across America are under 50 of people in recent elections that are not citizens voting. So this is just smokescreen. So that's my knowledge. I appreciate what y'all are doing. Y'all always work with integrity and transparency. I've been watching y'all since 2018. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the final person signed up is Ms. Mara Zuniga. Really waiting.
First, I'd like to say thank you very much. I know it's not easy to sit where you guys are at. You have so many differences of opinion by the public. Each citizen, depending on what party they're in, they get different information. And I understand that that can be difficult for you guys because you have to make determinations based on so many different conversations. So thank you very much for taking the time, to have applied for the positions that you're in and doing the work every week. That being said, I do agree with the folks that came here. There seems or appears to be a lack of transparency. And I hope you understand that, because that's what they're trying to tell you, is that we feel that the way the meeting was set up gives us the impression that there's a lack. Maybe there isn't. Maybe your intention wasn't that. But that's what it appears to us. You know, this room should be full by other people, but they're working, you know. I was able to get away, you know, because I'm self-employed instead of becoming retired. But a lot of people would want to be here to discuss this. The other thing is that when you come up with issues, I would like to know, usually there's a need for something. So you come up with a matter to discuss. What was the need that you guys saw the need to bring this up? What was it that you discussed that you said, we should do this now? I would like to know. Also, I would like to know if you really looked into it. What are the pros and the cons? Did you look at the argument? Why should we do this? Why we should not? I think that people would be more on board if you would have more conversation as to why you're bringing this up. What are the pros? What are the cons? Maybe you can convince both that way. But the way it's being set up right now, even when I asked you for questions on data, I haven't seen some data, you know? So it makes me concerned as a citizen that you guys are in a position to inform us why you're taking the decisions. And I don't think it's clear. So I'm asking for transparency in this whole process. Thank you very much.
Moving on, under old business, we have the selection of a new polling place to succeed 7A. We did.
Okay.
Yep. I'm sorry. 7A Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Athens, effective October 1st. I think we'll just recognize staff and we'll go from there. So, Director.
Yes, so just to give you an update of the timeline, just going back to when we first received notification from Unitarian Universalist Fellowship, May 29th, we were informed that UUFA, I'll refer to them as that, if that's okay, that they would no longer like to offer us the space for election day. Immediately, I reached out to our GIS department to look at the precinct boundaries and identify if there are any churches or government buildings or county-owned buildings, any type of facility that would be the alternative for the voters of 7A. Immediately, we communicated with our chair. We talked about Terabella. We visited Terabella.
Also known as Iris Place.
Yes.
Or previously.
Previously known as Iris Place. We visited there and immediately identified there's gonna be some issues, parking. We also, from that conversation, we started talking with Timothy Baptist Church. We met there as well. And we met with an issue that if there is an election that's held on the second or fourth Tuesday, then it would coincide with an event that they already have planned because they have food bank for Tuesdays, second and fourth Tuesdays. So that put me in a position where, okay, the worst case scenario would be splitting the precinct. So I talked with GIS, they brought in a map at our last meeting. And then during that time, we were met with some possibilities or the codes, the statutes, 21-2-261, where it speaks on if there are altering of precinct lines, what those timelines would be. You received memorandum today from the attorney's office with some options. I believe there are 4. And after reading these, I would like to make a recommendation that we have 2 possibilities, rather than splitting the precincts. And again, this is based on the timeline. We want to either reconsider UUFA, having a conversation with them, and I would recommend that the board be the ones to reach out to them to see if they would reconsider allowing us to vote at the location again this last time. And what I mean by last time, the rest of the year, just in case there's a December runoff. And imagine that there'll be one, but who knows, things like that can happen. And if not there, for us to have another conversation with Timothy and use the Timothy Baptist Church for just this election. But that means that we're gonna have to be very proactive as we go into 2025, because we could be faced with the same timeline. Because we do need to be ready and prepared for the June 2025 election, which will be the primary for the Public Service Commission. So that's my recommendation to you, and hope that you will consider a vote today so that we can go ahead and get on our timeline.
Okay. Floor is open for any board members. Have a question? Yeah, go ahead.
I guess just, I'm sorry, go ahead, Mr. Kadir. I'm late.
Yeah.
If we approach the universal and they come back and we cannot do it, then we are starting right back where we left off, right?
Well, it will be going to Timothy for the election for the November and December, possible December election. Because they are considering having us there. Our last conversation is that, yeah, that they're gearing towards, yes, to us.
So no longer talk about splitting, but just those two Timothy.
Yes.
That's her recommendation based on the
Right.
council we received. Go ahead.
So just to recap, this process was initiated because a location that was hosting us for elections was no longer able to extend that hospitality to us. And so we had to go back to the drawing board and look for another place to hold, have these voters vote. So the easiest solution would be to pick another location in the same precinct boundaries, which you just elaborated and y'all advised us would be the simplest. But yeah, the two locations that we looked at that seemed the best, Terravella has a parking issue that we don't think we could overcome in a general election turnout. Timothy Baptist, I'm trying to put together, the second and fourth Tuesday is an event they already have. But then, this might be a silly question, the election day, how would our election day preparations conflict with the fourth Tuesday? If we could, would we normally have done some preparation a week before the election? How is Timothy Baptist not viable, or is it still viable as far as you're concerned?
It would not be for the second and fourth Tuesday because they have their food bank, and the area that we will be using for election day is where that takes place.
Okay, I understand, but then November, I might be missing a key point here, November the 5th, election day is not the second or fourth Tuesday. So then would we then be able to use the church if they were amenable to it? It sounds like they might be.
Yes.
So that means it is at least viable for this year, is that right?
That's right.
Okay, so then for me, it's not a long-term solution, and I'm definitely wanting to try and get something that is a permanent solution, but if we don't have another, is there a better alternative in your mind within the boundaries of 7A?
There's literally nothing.
Then
Yeah.
for me, at least, the simplest solution seems to be it's temporary. I wish there were a longer-term version, but that seems at least disruptive.
Unless there's a neighborhood with a community center or like a schoolhouse type room or something.
So it's at least, in hearing none of that, then that's the easiest.
So our major concern now is early voting. More or less.
So this would not affect early voting. This is just an election day polling location.
Gotcha.
Anything, Ms. Hill, do you have anything before?
What was brought up other meetings is that this just might be the first domino to fall with churches. That when one church begins to talk about why they're actually moving, which we won't get into, but the behind the scenes that they fear might happen, then we might have other churches this next year before next elections that come to us and say, we're no longer gonna host you either. So we have more than just this one incident that we can consider.
Yeah, and thankfully, we only have two currently as it stands, two churches out of our 24, so. Hank, you had another?
Yeah, just to follow up on the Unitarian Church, the objection they had raised was insurance. Am I correct?
That was one.
That was one, but was that the main one? I mean, I cannot judge, but that's.
That was the main
That
concern.
was the main. Have we, had any more discussions with our manager's office in terms of budget? Can we offer that? I know we spoke a little bit about it last time, but maybe you can clarify some more. Can we offer them anything that would alleviate that concern?
No, we've looked into this before, and custodial services is the only thing allowable
Yeah.
by law.
Yeah.
So we could have someone clean up after, but
Yeah. Right.
Like I said, I think it's a little bit broader than that. I think it's like
Oh.
light and heat or something like that, but it's basically custodial and utilities. It's not.
Yeah,
insurance.
not insurance.
I'm trying to pull it up right now if you want to. I just haven't.
yeah, I would,
So
go ahead.
I kind of feel like there's some discussion going on between church members about appropriateness. So I don't want to open up that bag of worms. We think that they need to stay a tight-knit family. We need to move on and do what we do.
I was just gonna say, I like the director's recommendation.
I do too.
Happy to approach Unitarian one more time on behalf of the board, if you folks would like me to do that. And then depending that response, I think we just go with Timothy. Timothy Baptist Church, not the school. Okay. We need to take a vote. In the past, we've been told, you can't have, pending motions or this will be true if that doesn't happen type motions. So for example, board moves to stay at Unitarian and if they say no, Timothy Baptist. Or we have it.
It's called how
I have someone looking at the staff, if you feel comfortable. you can go.
Just remember from when we met last week. So I think the issue was that you have to give 30 days notice, right? You have to, but you need to, let me pull back the statute. But this group needs to essentially decide that you want to change the polling location. You run the ad,
Yes.
then you can vote on changing the polling
Yes.
location.
Yeah.
That's the sequence that it has to be in.
Yeah, so
So
shall
today,
not change any polling place until notice of the votes change shall have been published for once a week for 2 consecutive weeks.
So that's what needs to happen.
which is why we met today, because of those tight timelines.
Exactly.
And the statutes that require us to meet, to make these changes 90 or 60 days, depending on what we decide.
So if you voted on anything today, it would be to publish notice that you're going to change the that you wish to change polling location to.
Okay. What is, Ms. Perkins, what is the publishing deadline, timelines in order to be, I know that with the paper, no, the publishing. So if you called them today, which paper would it be in?
It's gonna be in the Athens Banner Herald,
So
but they don't
which day?
publish an actual paper until Wednesday. So today is Monday. I can get it in. I'm gonna say for Thursday, just to be on the safe side.
But if you called them on Wednesday,
It'll be
give the
Friday.
board enough time to reach out to Unitarian one more time. Then it will be Friday and then the 30 days.
And I think Director Sosby and I, when we talk about it, we do it on Sunday to Sunday.
Yes.
Sunday to Sunday.
And I was hoping for 7/21 and 7/28.
That was a document from last time.
Oh,
And then do they have a meeting too? So they will have a notification 2 consecutive weeks, and then will they have another meeting to vote to say that we're gonna do it? So can that meeting be on the 30th of July?
Let me back up before we decide that, because I think
Okay.
I need to be clear about
Make sure it's not 30.
the vote today.
Okay.
It would be easy if we knew we're voting Timothy Baptist or we're voting, we don't know that, and that's the point of your question.
Well, I'll do real quick there. Universal, UUA says, okay, one more time. No further action, we're done.
Right, because it wouldn't change it,
Right.
that's right.
Go
So actually, that's a fair point. So maybe the answer is that you all vote to change it to Yosemite Baptist, and if something falls through in the process, then then it falls through. Because it does, the problem with the statute is it doesn't say, for instance, you must vote specifically on the change, but it does say that it's on your own motion to change the polling place within any precinct. So I think you do have to make a motion to change the polling location, and so I think that is troublesome if it's an if or.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
So then, if we all were to like this, step one would be, maybe we take no action officially, and I'd like with a motion until we can confirm UUFA, if in fact they're not able to help hook us one more time. Once we find out for sure that's final, no. If yes, then we're great, and we proceed, right? But if no, then we would need to have a motion about changing it to Timothy Baptist. Have I got that right, from what y'all are hearing?
I think so, but from what I just understood was, the attorney recommended voting for Timothy Baptist.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Assuming the conversation may not follow through.
Right.
Oh.
We just discussed it briefly. We think that's the right answer because I don't think you can run the ad until you've made a motion specifically, and so that would necessitate another meeting before you could actually run the ad. Since the Unitarian Church is the current church, we agree that you could just make a motion to run the ad of the intent to change it to the Baptist, unless, or I'm trying to think of the best way to word it, and Courtney, feel free to jump in at any point, but I think you make the motion to run the ad, if that's your will. If at some point, you could say in the motion that, however, staff are directed to not run the ad if the Unitarian Church says that they're not going to make the change unless it's no longer necessary, or something like that.
Gotcha.
What do you think?
Get it
about that?
done. Yeah, no, I think that's right.
Right.
That works with your understanding of your conversation.
More simply, could the motion just say we direct staff on Thursday of this week, on 18, to run the ad? And then that gives us 2.5 business days to talk to the church, potentially work that out, or call a special meeting in between if
Right.
necessary, which probably wouldn't be, but.
Yeah, the problem would be that you wouldn't be able to cancel the direction unless you had another meeting. And so I'm with you. I don't like having motions where they're like ifs. But I think in this situation, since it's pretty clear, everyone knows what it is, and there doesn't appear to be anything in the law that prohibits such a thing, I think it'd be fair to say, run the ad unless the Unitarian Church lets us know prior to the running of the ad that they no longer desire us to change locations. So something like that, I think, would be acceptable in this situation. Fundamentally, though, all it does is save us the expense of running the ad, because there's no harm in running the ad, and then you all could vote not to change it.
Well,
We could vote to dismiss the,
That's absolutely right. At a later date.
well, it could cause some confusion. I'm not
Absolutely.
Sure, you
I
know,
could, yeah.
and, I don't know what is the risk of that.
I'd say that any action we take can cause some confusion one way or another, but yeah. We can open the floor for a vote if Mr. Shirley captured what the attorney was saying.
So,
Well, unless a board member would like to make a completely different motion that is whatever they choose.
Well, one quick question, if I may, when the director's not here for a minute. But how much time should we give the church to get back with us? We cannot just leave it open. We have to, maybe we'll approach them this evening or this
Yeah.
afternoon and say, we have to know by tomorrow. Maybe that's not realistic. Maybe they need their directors meeting to look into it. But we need a timeline to ask the church to let us know one way or the other.
End of business on Wednesday is what I was thinking.
Yeah, tomorrow.
Yeah. Feel like that's a realistic 2.5-ish.
And then I would like to reconvene another meeting for the vote after that. That's what I think would be a little more clearer. What do you?
For what purpose?
No, to vote on Timothy as your,
Well, that's what we were just discussing now.
okay,
Did you miss that part or?
okay,
It's continued.
It is.
yeah.
Attorney, could you re-summarize what you just said? Again, I apologize.
No, it is confusing. I think while we would not normally encourage the board to make motions that have, qualifying aspects to them that, something that could change or an if-then sort of statement. I think it's reasonable in this situation for the board to make a motion, and again, I'm not wordsmithing it on the fly, but something along the lines of the board directs staff to publish notice in the legal organ regarding its intent to change the polling place in precinct 7A from the Universalist Church to Timothy Baptist. Maybe you could say the board further directs staff to not publish that notice if by X time
Okay.
they receive
Okay, I missed that.
notification from the
Okay.
church.
Yeah, that's what I
They're,
thought
they're
you meant.
changing their awareness.
Okay. Great, thank you.
Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Athens to Timothy Baptist Church, effective for the November 5th, 2024 general election. The board further directs staff
Ms. Fambro, as the motion maker, do you have a date? Without the date, when in that, would you recommend we give Unitarian Universalist that? So to speak?
Direct precinct, yes.
I'm thinking Thursday because is Friday the deadline for us to put something in the paper on Sunday? So Thursday.
Friday.
Thursday
noon.
noon.
Thursday noon, okay. You okay with that?
Yes.
All right.
so again, that was 12 noon on Thursday?
I would put July 18,
Okay,
yeah,
but 12 noon,
yes.
July 18th.
All those, so why don't you rate it one more time? And then we'll call the vote.
Just for my part of the discussion here, does this, are we, Director, do you feel confident that Timothy Baptist is ready? Like, there's no further consultation needed, they are ready if we were to go this way?
5%.
But I just don't want to see, to be caught and have to come back.
Yes, because they were having a meeting as well. Yes.
All right, just want to be sure of that. Okay, then, with that in mind, I have motion by Ms. Canberra to direct staff to publish notice in the legal organ announcing the planned change of polling location from Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Athens to Timothy Baptist Church, effective for the November 5th, 2024 general election. The board further directs staff not to publish the notice if by 12 noon on July 18th, 2024, Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Athens has confirmed they will remain a polling location in the November 5th, 2024 general election.
Mr. Shirley, if I may,
Yes.
just, you said planned change.
Yes, ma'am.
The statutory language is proposed change. I would probably mirror that.
That-
Are you okay with that?
Okay, thank you.
Oh, that's an excellent point. Do you want to say that?
Well, you might want to say through the end of the calendar year rather than through general election in case.
Yes, depends on going on.
Okay, effective through the end of, I see, so instead of November language, effective through the end of 2024, or through the end of the calendar year.
Why don't we just put December 31st, 2024?
Effective through, let's use the actual states. If that gets to what you're talking about, effective through December 21st, 2024.
31st.
24. Kid, y'all, I'm sorry. Yeah, all right. So, all right. I've now changed that to say effective through December 31st, 2024.
Yes.
That gets what we're, thank y'all for your patience. I appreciate it.
All hands on deck for that one.
All right. Everybody understand the motion? Everybody okay with all the amendments? The two. All right, all those in favor say aye. All right, motion passes. All right. Next item on the agenda is an outreach plan to maximize community awareness of changes to 7A. Chair recognizes Ms. Fambro.
Okay, actually, my, what I wanted to say was more in the form of a question. Are we creating or have we reached some consensus about maximizing the awareness of what is going on? And, of course, I already know that staff is on it. But I just wanted to throw in a slight reminder that we need to get that information out as quickly as we can and as much as we can.
We will do that and we'll do what we, a customary, what we do. As far as sending the cards, of course, as state law requires. A state law also requires us to post notices in 3 locations in the vicinity of the former change, which we would do. We would also run the map in the paper to show the old and new location to inform voters of 7A that this would be their new location. We would also, according to state law, to post a week prior to the election a 4 by 4 feet sign at the old location to tell the voters where the new location is. And then in any advertisements that I do, with radio stations, I would also make notice that that is a poll location change.
Thank you.
Or additional you recommend? Or do letters go out as well as the cards?
Only the precinct cards.
And are those precinct cards addressed by our office and sent, or do they come from the vendor or the Secretary of State?
From the vendor.
Okay. My recommendation is if we could run letters to those folks, the registered voters, not every person in that precinct, but in addition, is that doable? No? Okay. It says nothing. All right.
That's
That's gonna get real expensive. What I would suggest is that while we're in the motion of radio talk, or however we're gonna get this information out, to be telling people to look out in their mailboxes for their cards.
Yes.
You know, and make them aware that your card is coming, you need to check daily.
Yeah.
And if time is approaching where you need to know, either call us or check the Secretary of State's website, something like that, because postage is not cheap.
And the reason I bring that up is there's a history of the cards arriving late or arriving incorrect or just, but I feel more confident if something comes from our office, that it will more likely be correct. So. All right, everybody good with that agenda item?
Mhm.
All right, next agenda item is new business, and that item under new business is discussion about possible changes to voter challenge procedure. And that was put forward by Mr. Shirley, so the chair recognizes Trevor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to check with you all because there is an item that I've heard is being considered by other election boards as a way to help protect staff from frivolous voter challenges. And before I know that it's going to be it becomes a legal question, I just wanted to check with you all before I send it to the attorneys if you thought it was worth even considering. And if not, we wouldn't even run it by them, and they might come back to us and say, nope, can't do it. But there's an interesting argument that I've heard being made about a code section that would cover frivolous voter challenges in the same way if I were to make an open records request, requesting something that would require thousands of documents to be scanned or gathered. They would do that if they'd be required to, but I would have to bear the burden of the cost of that. That's the kind of the germ of the idea. I don't claim to be an expert on it. I was intrigued by it. And with the election season we have coming up, I'm looking for any way that I can to spare some brain cells and some sanity for our beleaguered election workers. So I wanted to check with you all and see if that seemed worth chasing down a little bit, or if you thought it was not worth looking at further.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
I have a suggestion, between now and the next meeting, can we fill that out a little bit and just put this item on our, what is it, August the 13th agenda? That way we can probably get a little more information. And, like I said, feather it out and see what it looks like, see what maybe we can determine. But, cause, I think some people think that while staff are doing this work, that it's not costing anything. But it's a cost to that. It's a cost in money and it's a cost, and we need to be paying very much attention to the election that's coming up and spending a lot of our energies on that. And at some point, whether it's 200, 300, or 1,000, what is considered frivolous. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
I want to add one thing, and that's I'm willing to try everything once, look into it, get some more info, be more well-informed on it. And I just want to be clear that I believe Mr. Shirley's intent with this agenda item, correct me if I'm wrong, was to have a discussion about considering asking the attorneys to give us more info.
Correct. This is officially beginning the conversation with, correct, as well. Good.
Yeah.
Ms. Till or, Mr.
I'm
Kadir?
going to give my time to him and then I will ask my question.
Okay,
Firstly, I'd like to say, I am seriously not thinking we should have all our meetings at noon, because I have not seen participation like this since I've been on the board for 3.5 years, so, we usually have our governor and maybe someone else come here, but I hope you all know, the only reason we had it, because we had to have the meeting as soon as possible for the election, and this was the one time that was working for everyone. But I do completely understand, I've been involved in civic service here for over 30 years. Evening times do work out better and we are working on that. And happy to see Ms. Anita, I don't get to see her this often. As far as the ORR, and I'm not speaking for the board, I'm speaking entirely for myself. I do have the same concern as Mr. Shirley does. The idea of a non-citizen voting, it shouldn't even occur. But as we have looked into the procedure, once a person registers, goes through the state board, and they are looking at it, that is their job. If they fall through, somebody has some evidence, I think that is when an ORR is absolutely essential, and it should be utilized because that's the purpose. But as I think Ms. Franklin has said, this is costly. This is, our staff is working the way, and I wish all 80,000 people, residents of our county knew what they do, how they do every minute. Imagine if 100 people came in and asked for just requests that would take up a whole day. It is not possible to function like that. And some of these are, and I'm not going to ask for intent, why people do it, but if there are legitimate questions, it will cost money, and I think that's why the state board has certain procedures. I don't think we can make up our own rules on what should be done, but we would like to look into it. Because just try to put yourself in a situation where you have hundreds of people requesting numerous documents, it's just not possible to be able to process them, especially during the meeting. But I know that our staff will do absolutely anything to provide whatever information, and this just gets out of it. So that's my view, and yeah, I mean, how do we determine what is frivolous and what is non-frivolous? Sometimes you have to go through it to explain to someone that this is not the procedure, this is something else. So what you're asking doesn't even happen. But I just want to leave you all with just the idea that it is a lot of time to do this. And I believe that's why our state laws ask for people to be able to charge them for this. So,
Ms. Till?
Yeah, when I was asked to join the board and I took an oath, it was to keep the law and to do what I could to assist aid voters in Clarke County to be able to vote. And that's what the board, their goal, their mission is to provide the opportunity for voters to vote. My question is, are the attorneys aware of what it is that we're discussing? Do they have has any of this been provided to them to look at? Okay, well, I looked at and talked to some people about your proposal, and I understand it, and, you know, I don't want to give the staff any more to do than what they have to do either. Well, what I am told, what I have read and what's been discussed with me is the number 9-11-4 that you have given in your email to us is actually a commencement of action and serve to the civil courts for civil suits. And this is to notify people that they're being sued and that the cost that is incurred here by these people is for the filing of this court action. That this has nothing to do with the Board of Elections and that we don't fall into this law 9-11-4. So I don't think that this would really be a legal action.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Two things, I think, moving forward, we have a motion or potential motion from Ms. Fambro to table until August. And again, I believe that this was a discussion amongst ourselves to come to consensus or not, to then send to the attorney's office. So I don't, none of us have a background in law, so. The floor is open if Ms. Fambro wishes to make her motion or someone else has a comment. The table.
So I move that we table this item until our August the 13th meeting, regular monthly meeting.
I'll second that.
All those in favor of tabling this agenda item to August 13th meeting, say aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Final items on the agenda are announcements. Next regular meeting, as previous motion stated, will be on August 13th at 120 West Doherty Street, 4:30 p.m. August 19th is the first day to request an absentee ballot for the November election. Correct?
You're correct, and the
Okay.
last day to
Would you
accept
like
them
to
is
add anything
October
else?
25th. I'll just reemphasize what I shared at our meeting last week. The window is August 19th through October 25th for absentee ballot applications for the November election, unless it's UOCAVA, those can be sent in now. I beg you to please make sure before you send your application in that you have checked everything and that you have looked over it at least 3 times. I want to get your ballot to you as quick as I can. If you have any questions, call the office, because sometimes what you see on the news might be for another county in Georgia or a completely different state, and you just hear that something that's wrong and you automatically think it's Athens-Clarke County, and it is not. So if you have any questions, call the office and ask for Audra. Thank you.
All right. Final announcement, regular meeting for September is the 17th. And are we meeting here?
Yes.
Oh, right, because we had to shift the change. Okay. The final agenda item is to adjourn. Chair entertains the motion to adjourn. Motion been said, do we have a second?
A second.
Ms. Fambro, all those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
1:34.